When conviction turns into salvation, what miracle do you dare to believe in? Have you ever wondered why a 2,000-year-old story about a woman condemned to death for adultery continues to haunt the modern world? What makes this ancient tale so powerful, so deeply rooted in our collective consciousness, that it still stirs our hearts and challenges our beliefs today? Imagine the scene: a crowd of accusers filled with rage and self-righteousness, holding stones tightly in their hands, ready to cast judgment. And there, in the center, is the woman, eyes shut tight, waiting for the inevitable, her fate sealed in the hands of those who claim to possess ultimate truth. But then, in the midst of this crushing certainty, Jesus steps forward. He doesn't save her by denying her sin or dismissing the law. He doesn't justify her actions or diminish the weight of what has been done. Instead, he exposes the hypocrisy of those who condemn her, turning their accusations back upon them. In the most profound act of mercy, he transforms the moment of judgment into an opportunity for grace. As the crowd disperses, Jesus looks at the woman and says, "Neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin." Why does this moment matter so much? Not just in ancient times, but right here, right now, in a world so quick to condemn, so eager to judge. The theologian Miroslav Volf, in his groundbreaking work, Exclusion and Embrace, writes, "Forgiveness does not erase justice. It rewrites the story." That single act of mercy rewritten the story of this woman's life, just as it rewrites our own stories every day. It's a narrative of grace, of love that calls us to rise above the judgment we often cast on others and on ourselves. But here's the question: are we ready to embrace this miracle of forgiveness, this radical act of rewriting the story, in a society that loves to throw stones, even when we don't physically hold them in our hands? Are we willing to believe that the ultimate judgment has already been made by the one who has the power to forgive, the power to save, and the power to transform? In a world where condemnation often feels like the default response, where judgment is quick and mercy is rare, this story calls us to something deeper. It invites us to look beyond the surface, to see that the grace offered by Christ is not just for the woman in the ancient story. It's for all of us, right here, right now. We live in a world where people are quick to cast judgment, where we see others as less than or beyond redemption. And yet, Jesus stands in the center of this chaos, inviting us to step into the miracle of forgiveness, offering us a chance not just to survive, but to truly live. This is not a fairy tale. This is not an abstract ideal. This is a reality, a call to us all to stop hiding behind our stones and start rewriting the story, to let the judgment that weighs so heavily on us be transformed into the freedom of grace. But here's the twist. The choice is ours. Will you dare to believe in this kind of miracle? Will you allow the verdict of judgment to be rewritten into a story of salvation? As you watch this video, I urge you to ask yourself, how many stones am I still holding? And more importantly, how much longer will I allow them to keep me from living the full, liberated life that Christ offers? The miracle of forgiveness is not just a story from the past. It's waiting to rewrite your story. Will you let it? The scratch on the perfect painting, the truth about unspoken pain. There is a woman in the Bible whose name we never learn, whose voice we never hear. Only her title, the sinner. In the eyes of the crowd, she is reduced to a label, nothing more. Yet the story told about her is not about the crime she committed, but about the mechanisms of collective violence and judgment that still reverberate in our society today. In John 8:1-11, we encounter a moment that is as relevant now as it was 2,000 years ago. This woman stands before the crowd, condemned for adultery, ready to be stoned to death. Her fate is sealed by a legalistic and hypocritical society that seeks justice not through truth, but through the power of exclusion. However, Jesus breaks through this cycle of condemnation with a single question: "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." In that pivotal moment, Jesus does more than save a woman's life. He shatters the collective mechanism that uses guilt, shame, and violence to create scapegoats. He doesn't dismiss her sin. He doesn't diminish the law. He confronts the system of blame and exclusion. He forces us all to confront our own complicity in perpetuating cycles of violence. In doing so, he not only saves her from death, but transforms the narrative of judgment into one of mercy. In the words of the anthropologist René Girard, in his theory of the scapegoat mechanism, society always seeks a victim to expel in order to relieve its collective rage. This is not just a theological or historical truth. It is a powerful critique of how our modern culture often functions. We create scapegoats, victims who bear the weight of our collective sins, shame, and rage. But Jesus, in his radical mercy, does not allow this cycle to continue. He flips the narrative upside down. The woman is not condemned. She is freed, not by her innocence, but by the mercy of Christ. We must ask ourselves, in this world of constant judgment and violence, whether in the streets or on social media, where do we stand in this cycle? Are we the victims, perpetually bearing the weight of others' judgments? Are we the silent bystanders, watching as others are shamed, excluded, and discarded? Or are we the ones who hold the stones, ready to cast blame on others for their perceived wrongdoings? The woman in John 8, like so many others in our world today, represents a truth that is often hard to confront. The pain that remains unspoken, the wounds that are never acknowledged, and the silence that binds us together in our collective guilt. The Bible's depiction of this woman isn't just a lesson on sin. It's a call to recognize how we, as a society, continue to use others as our scapegoats. The power of the unspoken pain this woman, unnamed and silenced, is a figure whose story transcends time. She represents not only the oppressed, but also those who bear the invisible wounds of judgment, shame, and violence. Her silence is profound. It echoes the suffering of countless individuals who remain voiceless in the face of societal oppression. The Bible doesn't just tell her story as a historical event. It speaks to the universal reality of how we treat the marginalized, the broken, and the discarded. But there is more to this story than just the suffering of the woman. There is a question that Jesus asks, a question that cuts through the heart of every act of injustice and exclusion. Who is without sin? John 8:7. This question is not just for the crowd that stands ready to throw stones. It is for all of us. It forces us to examine our own hearts and our own participation in the cycles of violence and exclusion that plague our world today. In a world where judgment is often quick and mercy is hard to find, this passage challenges us to reflect on our role in perpetuating the pain of others. How often do we cast stones at those whose lives are messy, whose sins are visible, while ignoring our own imperfections? How many times do we stand by in silence while others are condemned, choosing the comfort of passivity over the responsibility of action? The theological significance of Jesus' intervention theologically. This moment is not just about saving the woman. It is about revealing the true nature of God's justice and mercy. God's justice is not a blind force that punishes without regard to the individual's heart. It is a justice that sees the heart of the person, that understands the deeper story beyond the surface. Jesus does not deny the woman's guilt, but he acknowledges the deeper sin of the accusers, the sin of hypocrisy, pride, and self-righteousness. In this act of mercy, Jesus reveals something profoundly radical. True justice is not about condemning, but about restoring. It is about lifting people out of their brokenness and offering them a new chance to live differently. In John 8:10-11, after the crowd disperses, Jesus speaks to the woman. "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? Then neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin." Jesus doesn't simply let her go. He empowers her to change. He offers her a future, a new beginning. This is the true meaning of justice. Not merely punishment, but redemption and transformation. The role of forgiveness in breaking the cycle. Forgiveness, as Jesus demonstrates, is not a mere act of letting go. It is an active choice to break the cycle of violence and hatred. Forgiveness is the antidote to the mechanism of scapegoating that René Girard describes. It is the refusal to allow the sins of one person to be used as the justification for the oppression of others. Forgiveness is the act of rewriting the story, not erasing the pain, but transforming it into a narrative of healing and redemption. In Christian theology, forgiveness is not just about letting go of personal grievances. It is about creating a community where reconciliation and restoration are the ultimate goals. Jesus' intervention with the woman caught in adultery is a perfect example of how forgiveness operates within the framework of divine justice. It is not a denial of sin, but a powerful invitation to choose a new path, one that leads to life rather than death. As Miroslav Volf notes in Exclusion and Embrace, forgiveness does not erase justice. It rewrites the story. This is the true power of the gospel. It does not ignore the wrongs that have been done, but it transforms the way we respond to them. It calls us to step away from our instinctual desire to throw stones and instead to choose the path of mercy, grace, and restoration. The modern implications of scapegoating in today's world. The concept of the scapegoat is more relevant than ever. Our modern society continues to create victims, individuals who are blamed for the sins and failures of the collective. Whether it's on social media, in the workplace, or in the political arena, we see how quickly society is willing to cast judgment on others. This phenomenon is not just a contemporary issue. It is a continuation of the same cycle that Jesus confronted in his time. The story of the woman caught in adultery challenges us to reflect on how we, as individuals and as a society, participate in the act of scapegoating. How often do we point fingers at others, blaming them for the problems in our lives, in our communities, and in our world? How often do we use the failures of others as a way to make ourselves feel better, to justify our own actions or inactions? Breaking the cycle and embracing mercy as we reflect on this powerful story, we must ask ourselves, where do we stand in the cycle of violence and judgment? Are we the ones who throw stones, or are we the ones caught in the crossfire of a world that is quick to condemn? Jesus' message in this passage is clear. We are all sinners. We are all in need of mercy, and we are all called to embrace a new way of living, one that is rooted in forgiveness, justice, and love. The story of the woman caught in adultery is not just a historical account. It is a call to action. It invites us to break the cycle of judgment, to refuse to participate in the scapegoating mechanisms of our society, and to choose the path of mercy and grace. In doing so, we not only transform our own lives, but also contribute to a world that reflects the love and justice of God. So, I ask you, where do you stand? Will you continue to be a part of the cycle, casting stones and perpetuating the violence of exclusion? Or will you take the first step toward forgiveness, healing, and reconciliation? The choice is yours, and the story is waiting to be rewritten. From the depths of shame to the dawn of freedom, the power of go and sin no more in the profound moment, captured in John 8:11, when Jesus says, "Neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin." He does not offer a mere absolution of guilt. He does not whitewash the woman's past, nor ignore her sin. Instead, he bestows upon her the incredible power to rewrite her future. This single sentence doesn't merely offer forgiveness, it offers liberation, a new beginning, and a path forward. Jesus isn't just offering a second chance. He's offering a completely new life, one defined by grace rather than guilt. Judith Herman, a renowned psychologist and author of Trauma and Recovery, underscores a powerful truth. Recovery from trauma requires the witness of someone who does not judge. In this moment, Jesus becomes the non-judgmental witness who not only acknowledges the woman's pain, but also sees the possibility of her restoration. His act of mercy doesn't diminish the harm done. Instead, it provides the space for healing, transformation, and freedom. But how often do we find ourselves unable to forgive those who have harmed us? Is it even possible to forgive those who have caused us deep pain, to let go of the grip of resentment and move toward a future of wholeness? Forgiveness is a concept that both challenges and empowers us. Lewis Smedes, a distinguished theologian, once wrote, "To forgive is to abandon the hope of a better past." This radical statement is at the heart of Jesus' encounter with the woman caught in adultery. Jesus doesn't ask her to look back at the past with regret. but instead to look forward with a renewed sense of purpose. The key to her freedom is not found in changing what is already behind her, but in choosing to step into the future with a heart open to redemption. The weight of guilt, shame, and trauma can imprison the soul. Too often we hold on to the past, convinced that our mistakes and failures define who we are. We become prisoners of our own history, locked in an internal battle with regret, unable to move forward. This is a common experience for many who face deep shame, whether from past actions or the judgment of others. And yet, the words of Jesus provide a radical solution. Go and sin no more. These words do not minimize the significance of the past, but they offer the possibility of a new beginning. This invitation is a call to step out of the shadows of shame and into the light of freedom. It is an invitation to reclaim your story, to define your future, and to release the chains of past mistakes. The power of witnessing without judgment. Jesus' ability to forgive without judgment is one of the most profound aspects of his ministry. He sees us as we are, not through the lens of condemnation, but through the lens of compassion. In a world where judgment is often swift and merciless, Jesus offers something altogether different, a compassionate gaze that sees beyond the immediate wrong and into the heart of the person. He provides the space for healing and growth, without condemnation, but with the challenge to rise above one's past mistakes. Judith Herman's work on trauma recovery provides insight into the necessity of non-judgmental witnessing in the healing process. In cases of trauma, whether psychological, emotional, or spiritual, the presence of a compassionate witness is essential for recovery. This is precisely what Jesus offers the woman in John 8. He does not condemn her, but he also does not ignore the reality of her sin. Instead, he offers a healing path forward, one that acknowledges the past but does not allow it to dictate the future. Jesus' forgiveness doesn't come with conditions. It comes with empowerment. In her moment of deepest shame, the woman is given the opportunity to step into a new reality. This is the power of divine forgiveness. It is not merely the erasure of guilt, but the invitation to move forward with a renewed sense of self-worth and purpose. It is not just about what you have done, but about who you are becoming in the eyes of God. Forgiveness as a path to freedom. Forgiveness is not merely about letting go of resentment. It is about releasing the past in order to embrace the future. When Jesus says, "Go and sin no more," he is calling the woman to step beyond her past and into the fullness of life that he offers. This is a powerful statement of freedom. Jesus does not ask her to be perfect, but he does ask her to live with intention, to live with the knowledge that she is loved, forgiven, and called to something greater than her past. Forgiveness, as Smedes points out, requires abandoning the hope of a better past. But what does this really mean? It means accepting that we cannot change what has already happened, but we can choose how we move forward. We can choose to forgive, not just others, but ourselves, and begin to live differently. We can choose to move from a life defined by guilt and shame to one defined by grace and purpose. Forgiveness is not just a theological concept. It is a practical and necessary act for anyone who desires to experience true healing and freedom. In practical terms, forgiveness allows us to release the hold that past wounds have over us. It frees us from the tyranny of what could have been and allows us to embrace what can be. It opens the door to new possibilities, new relationships, and new opportunities for growth. But forgiveness is not a one-time event. It is a continual process. It requires us to choose forgiveness every day, to choose to let go of the old narratives that define us and step into the new story that God is writing for us. The challenge of letting go, while the invitation to forgive is powerful, it is also incredibly difficult. Letting go of past hurts, especially those caused by others, is not something that happens overnight. It is a process that requires strength, vulnerability, and above all, trust. Trust in God's ability to heal our wounds, trust that He will use our pain for a greater purpose, and trust that the future is not determined by the mistakes of the past. The woman, caught in adultery, had to make the choice to accept the forgiveness that Jesus offered her and to move forward with a new sense of purpose. She was no longer defined by her sin. She was redefined by grace. The same invitation is extended to us. We may not have committed the same sins as the woman, but we all have moments in our lives where we feel weighed down by past mistakes, by regrets, and by shame. The choice to forgive, to let go of those past hurts, is the first step toward freedom. Rewriting the future in the words of Jesus, the woman is given a new opportunity to write her future. This is the true power of forgiveness. It doesn't erase the past, but it gives us the freedom to rewrite the story. The past no longer has to define us. We can choose to live in the freedom of grace, knowing that our identity is not found in what we have done, but in what God has done for us. This is the core message of the gospel, that forgiveness is not just a release from punishment, but a release from the power of the past. It is an invitation to live with a new identity, one that is rooted in God's love, mercy, and grace. It is an invitation to rise above the past and live a life that reflects the transformation that only God can bring. As you reflect on this powerful encounter between Jesus and the woman caught in adultery, ask yourself, what is holding me back? Are there past mistakes, regrets, or hurts that continue to define who I am? Are there areas of my life where I am still holding on to the past, unable to move forward? Jesus' words to the woman, "Go and sin no more," are not just a call to moral perfection. They are a call to freedom. They are a call to let go of the past and to embrace the new life that Christ offers. The question is, will you accept that invitation? Will you accept that invitation? Will you choose forgiveness, not just for others, but for yourself? Will you allow God to rewrite your story, to transform your life, and to lead you into the future He has planned for you? The choice is yours, and it starts now. The hand without a stone. Building community from the heart of Christ. There is a profound moment in John 8 when Jesus bends down and begins to write on the ground. Some theologians suggest He was writing the sins of the accusers, forcing them to confront the darkness within themselves. But what is often overlooked is the subtle, yet powerful, act of mercy this gesture represents. Jesus, in that moment, creates space for self-reflection, an opportunity for the accusers to see their own failings, just as He saw the woman's. As He stands, He delivers the powerful challenge, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." This moment is not just about forgiveness. It is about breaking the cycle of judgment and inviting all into a space of compassion and community. Sociologist Brené Brown, in her book Braving the Wilderness, captures this dynamic powerfully. Compassion is not about having a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It's about recognizing that we are all wounded. What Jesus does here, and what He calls us to do, is not merely to forgive those who have wronged us, but to create a community that is built on the recognition that every person is carrying wounds, some visible, some hidden, but all deeply human. In His actions, Jesus challenges the paradigm of judgment and invites us into a community of healing, where we no longer stand with stones in hand, ready to cast judgment, but with open hearts, ready to embrace one another in our shared humanity. A radical invitation to self-reflection. It's easy to imagine that the woman caught in adultery was the only one in need of mercy in this scene. After all, she is the one who was accused, the one whose sin was laid bare for all to see. But in the context of this story, Jesus does not just focus on her. His question to the accusers, "Whoever is without sin, let them cast the first stone," is a radical call to self-reflection. Jesus doesn't simply condemn the accusers, nor does He give the woman a free pass. He forces each person to confront their own darkness before they can act on someone else. His bending down to write in the sand is symbolic. It is an act that allows everyone to pause and face their own failures and flaws. Jesus' challenge is not just about forgiveness. It's about inviting others into a space of vulnerability, where they are no longer seen as their worst mistakes, but as whole individuals capable of growth and change. His intervention is about creating a community where self-reflection and compassion are the norms, where no one is condemned to isolation because of their sins. The transformative power of compassion. Brené Brown's insight on compassion challenges us to rethink how we engage with one another in community. In many churches and religious spaces, there exists a subtle expectation of perfection. Those who fall short, whether through moral failings, mistakes, or wounds, are often cast aside or left in silence. But Jesus' approach to the woman caught in adultery is the opposite. He does not ostracize her. He sees her humanity and invites the entire crowd to see it too. In doing so, he offers a radical form of compassion. Not the kind that merely feels sorry for someone, but the kind that recognizes our shared vulnerability and humanity. Brown's definition of compassion: not a relationship between the healer and the wounded, but the recognition that we are all wounded, deeply resonates with the Christian call to build community. In the body of Christ, there is no room for superiority. We are all sinners in need of grace. We all carry scars from our past actions, from the words we've said, the things we've done, and the pain we've caused. But just as Jesus shows us here, those scars don't make us unworthy of love. They make us human. And in our humanity, we are called to extend that same grace and compassion to others, no matter their mistakes or our own. The community that Jesus calls us to create is not one where the wounded are cast aside, but one where we acknowledge our wounds, learn from them, and allow them to make us more empathetic, more connected, and more loving. The church, then, is not just a place of refuge for the innocent. It is a place where sinners, each and every one of us, are invited to experience the grace that transforms us into something greater than ourselves. Rewriting the community narrative in the story of the woman caught in adultery, Jesus rewrites the narrative. He transforms a situation that would have typically been about condemnation into one of mercy and grace. The woman, whose very existence had been defined by her sin, is invited to leave the place of judgment and enter a new life, one filled with the potential for healing and change. Jesus does not ignore the reality of her actions, but he challenges her, and all of us, to step beyond the labels we've been given. She is no longer just a sinner. She is a woman capable of change, of growth, and of being fully integrated into the community of faith. This act of rewriting the narrative is something that the church is called to do today. We must rewrite the way we view sin, shame, and forgiveness. The message of the gospel is not just about the punishment of wrongdoers, it is about the restoration of all people into community. The Bible doesn't teach us to label others based on their worst actions, but to see them as God sees them: beloved, broken, but worthy of love and healing. In the modern context, we are witnessing a time when the world is more fragmented than ever. The rise of social media has given us new platforms to judge, condemn, and ostracize. But the story of the woman caught in adultery invites us to rethink our approach. It challenges us to stop throwing stones, to stop participating in the cycles of public shaming, and to start listening, to understand the complexities of people's lives, to empathize with their struggles, and to offer the same grace that Christ offers to us. Community without judgment. Practical steps. So, how do we create this kind of community? A community that does not judge but heals. It starts with listening. Just as Jesus heard the cries of the woman without judgment, we too must begin by listening to the stories of those around us. Listening is a powerful act of compassion. It tells the other person that they are worthy of being heard, that their pain is valid, and that they are not alone. Next, we must be willing to bear the burdens of others. Galatians 6:2 calls us to bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. Bearing someone's burden doesn't mean fixing their problems. It means refusing to condemn them, but instead lifting them up in love and understanding. Building a community free from judgment also means creating spaces for healing and reconciliation. This is what the church, at its best, is called to be: a place of refuge, a hospital for the broken, and a sanctuary for the lost. It is a place where everyone, no matter their past, can come and experience the love of Christ. This requires vulnerability, acknowledging that we too are broken and in need of healing. It requires humility, patience, and a willingness to embrace the messiness of life. Finally, we must challenge the societal structures that perpetuate judgment. Just as Jesus confronted the system of exclusion and condemnation in his time, we too must challenge the systems in our world today that create scapegoats, that silence the voices of the marginalized, and that perpetuate cycles of violence and shame. We are called to be agents of change, creating communities that reflect God's kingdom. A kingdom where love and grace reign, where forgiveness is extended, and where all are welcome. The call to build a community free from judgment, a community that embodies the compassion and grace of Christ, is not an easy one. It requires courage, humility, and a willingness to confront the darkness within ourselves. But it is a call we must heed. We cannot afford to remain passive in a world that so often thrives on judgment, exclusion, and violence. The story of the woman caught in adultery is not just a historical account. It is a timeless invitation. It calls us to move beyond our own failures and to extend the hand of mercy to others. It calls us to create spaces where everyone can experience healing, transformation, and the unconditional love of God. The question is, will you accept this invitation? Will you choose to live in a community that reflects the heart of Christ, where there is no condemnation, only grace and restoration? Will you, like Jesus, choose to bend down and write a new story, one of mercy, one of compassion, and one of community? The choice is yours. The time is now. From dust to stars, a story that never ends. Where did the woman go? The Bible doesn't tell us, because her story from that very moment became ours. She walked away, not just from the crowd, but from a past that threatened to define her, and into a future filled with new possibilities. The writer Simone Weil once said, "Love is not a solution, but a rebirth." Jesus didn't promise her an easy life, but he did offer her something far more profound. Light, the kind of light that guides you through the darkest places, the kind of light that turns sorrow into purpose. And it's this light that you are invited to walk in today. The woman's story didn't end with the stoning. It began with her forgiveness, with Jesus rewriting her future. And now, that same opportunity lies before you. Do you want to know what's truly astonishing? This story is not just about her. It's about you. You and the choices you make, the forgiveness you offer, and the courage you have to stand for justice in a world desperate for healing. The journey from dust to stars, as it's so beautifully said, is not just a poetic image. It's the truth of the gospel: redemption, resurrection, and transformation. When Harvard University conducted a study on trauma recovery, they found something groundbreaking. People who find meaning in their suffering have a doubling of their ability to heal. This is not just an academic observation. It's the very essence of Christ's message. By finding purpose in pain, by choosing to transform our suffering into something meaningful, we become more than just survivors. We become the healers, the restorers, the light in a world full of shadows. Jesus didn't promise a life free of hardship. He promised the strength to carry on in the face of it. He didn't give this woman an easy path. He gave her the power to rewrite her future, just as he gives to each of us. And now, the question is, what will you do with this moment? Will you, like the woman, choose to walk away from your past? Will you allow Jesus' light to guide you? Or will you continue to walk in the darkness of your own regret, pain, or judgment? Today, you have the power to choose. You have the ability to rise above your circumstances, to forgive, to break the chains of shame, and to live a life full of meaning, hope, and healing. The choice is in your hands. You can become the author of your own story, just as Jesus invited the woman to become. You can rewrite your past, not by erasing it, but by giving it new meaning. You can choose to forgive, whether it's forgiving yourself for the mistakes you've made or forgiving others who have wronged you. It's time to stop letting the past hold you back. It's time to stand up and speak the truth, no matter how difficult it may be. You can choose to be the one who speaks up, the one who defends the marginalized, the one who refuses to stand by when injustice is done. You can choose to follow the example of St. Francis, who said, "Preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words." The power of forgiveness, the courage to act, the willingness to defend and love, these are the choices that will reshape your life and the lives of others. This is not a call to sit idly by, waiting for change to come. This is a call to step into your purpose, to make the world around you reflect the love and justice of God. The woman caught in adultery was given a chance at new life, a chance to walk away from the stones and into a future of grace. And now, you stand at that same crossroads. Will you step forward into the light, or will you let the stones of shame, guilt, and judgment hold you captive? This is not just her story. It is yours. This is the story of redemption, of grace, of love that conquers all. And it's time to rewrite your chapter. You can do it. You are not defined by your mistakes, your past, or the mistakes of others. You are defined by the love of Christ. And in His love, there is no shame, no condemnation, only hope, only freedom. So, I ask you today, what will your story be? Will you continue to stand by in silence, or will you, like Jesus, choose to offer grace to those in need? Will you pick up the stones, or will you drop them and choose to rebuild, restore, and heal? The journey from dust to stars is yours to walk. The question is, will you step forward into it? The choice is in your hands, right here, right now. You have the power to change, to forgive, to love, and to rewrite your story. And there is no time like the present to begin. Thank you for watching this video. If this message stirred something in you, don't let it stay inside. Share it with someone stuck in their own storm, someone holding on to anger like armor, someone who just needs to know there's another way. Click subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's keep walking together. And until next time, may you live unchained, may you love boldly, and may you forgive like your future depends on it, because it does. The strongest prayer isn't found in words. It's found in the life that dares to live like Jesus already answered.